Hello and welcome to another episode of Wealth Creators on CNBC TV 18. My guest today, Shantanu Prakash, the man behind EduComp and the man who made education a sexy word for the stock market.
This is the story of a dreamer with a difference. He not only achieved his own dreams but helps many others do it day in and day out. Shantanu Prakash, a middle-class boy from Delhi, decided to walk the road less travelled. After IIMA, when most of his classmates opted for cushy jobs at MNCs, Shantanu decided to set out on his own. And 17 years later, he has no regrets. And why would he? After founding EduComp in 1994, he has been changing the face of Indian education on a daily basis.
Shantanu, welcome to Wealth Creators, and I believe you're actually from the whole DPS alumni.
Yes, indeed.
You know, tell me, were you a geek at school? Were you like into computers and you thought this is what I want to do, or did it start off much later for you?
I was a child who was breaking all the rules in the class.
Really?
So show me a rule and I'll say, look, I need to break it. So I think I was definitely known as somebody who wouldn't conform to the dotted line and somebody who would be really creative in the classroom. Seem like somebody who's not studying at all and then pull a surprise at the last minute.
At the time that you got out of IIMA, Shantanu, a lot of people from your batch probably went into an MNC company, went into a structured job. You really did go down a path that people did not go down. You know, what excited you about this and what made you want to be an education entrepreneur?
I was pretty much set in my mind when I went to business school that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, do something different, and probably if I walked down memory lane, I would credit the fact that I read a lot when I was right from like grade 3 or 4. And I used to read all the Arthur Haley, the Robert Ludlums of the world, and they're all about painting a larger than life fantasy. The exciting life of being on your own and doing something which was very risky and risk-taking. Now given the, where India was in the late 80s, the riskiest thing that I could do passing out of business school was actually to start a business.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people felt, you must be completely crazy. In fact, the truth is that even before I took the decision that I would go to IIM Ahmedabad, I actually toyed with the idea that should I actually spend these 2 years in a B school or should I actually launch something on my own? So when I passed out of B school, it wasn't a decision about should I do something on my own or not. That was a decision that was taken maybe like 7 or 8 years back.
It's been a phenomenal business model where a lot of large IT education companies have faltered. I think Shantanu has shown what a little bit of a dream can do, and he's just changed the equations completely in the education space. We need 100 more Shantanus to make this India education story come true, and I think the wealth creation that he's done is not just from a market perspective, but I think the social and national ramifications of it are far intense.
You know, Shantanu, just to approach the whole entrepreneur thing from a different point of view, I've been speaking to a lot of people who are part of this Wealth Creator set, and I think what stands out is that not everyone is from the same background. One person is from a middle class background who never had exposure to equity markets. One actually got a business down from his father. Do you think to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to be from a certain financial or educational background? Because I don't know what it was for you.
No, I think it's completely, at least that quality is completely overrated. I think firstly, if you want to be a good entrepreneur, I'm not talking about with a big entrepreneur or small entrepreneur, you need to have vision and passion about what you really want to achieve. And then there are certain, I think, universal principles of entrepreneurship, starting with risk-taking, starting with is the opportunity big enough, then going to are we going to make enough money doing this, what's a sustainable competitive advantage, and so on. So it's not about knowing finance. A number of really, the best entrepreneurs in the world haven't come from the world of finance, but they were masters of what they did.
But specifically for you, EduComp is a risk-taking game. It was a risk-taking game when you started it off, wasn't it? Is that the biggest thing that stands out about what you did, that you took a big risk?
When I started EduComp, it was not so much about risk or no risk. It was about there is this huge problem in Indian education, and I had been a victim of that when I was in school. So look, imagine the life of a student in school. Kids should be out there enjoying themselves, enjoying learning. But that rarely happens in Indian classrooms. Classrooms are typically overcrowded. The best and the brightest of India don't become teachers. They get into professions like TV journalism. Okay.
Entrepreneurs.
or they do other things in life. Okay.
Yeah.
The curriculum is extremely stressful. The assessments are all focused on rote learning, and there is so much competitive pressure. Okay. So one of the things that I set out to do was, can I make a change? Can I make an intervention? And then I thought that computers and IT, when I started the company,
Sure.
IT and computers were just sort of coming on. And there were these magical tools in my hand. And I was so excited. I said, if I can use this to liberate the child and make him break away from the drudgery of the classroom, I would have accomplished it.
Today, India's enrollment in the age group 18 to 24 is only 11% in universities. All emerging markets have 25% and developed markets maybe 50-52%. So if India has to drive up the enrollment rate from 11 to 25%, technology becomes a need on which educational services have to be built.
But I mean, you straddle many continents as well, right, Shantanu? A bulk of your business comes from the US as a market and by way of business for your e-learning initiative. Do you sense a dichotomy there in terms of what's happening? I mean, you feel for here, but the money is there.
Oh, no, not at all.
Really?
In fact, in the world of education, it's really interesting that if you look at different societies, look at the Indian society, we invest a very small amount of money in our education because we don't have enough money to spend. And the output of our education system, despite the fact that parents are so motivated, students are so motivated, they work 10-12 hours a day, it's actually pretty dismal. So 50% of students fail to make it past the school leaving examination. Now cut to the US. Okay, very prosperous economy. They don't believe in putting too many kids into school. They spend $7,000 a year on each student. We could educate a whole village with that amount, and look at the output that they achieve with that. 78% of students in the US failed in the grade 12 math examination. So the point that I'm trying to make it, there is universal pain. Societies haven't been able to really understand how to deliver educational outcomes. Now, look at EduComp in that backdrop. So, I don't look at this as a US or an India or a Singapore or a China problem. I see, when I look at the world, I see a borderless world. I see, there are classrooms across the world, and the problems of these classrooms are exactly the same, no matter where the classrooms are located.
Yeah, no, but the point I was making, Shantanu, is that does it irk you when people say, oh, there's so much coming in from government schools, oh, the days receivables are so much longer, there's a problem with the cash flow for this company. Does that irritate you? Because, I mean, it's fair for them to ask it, right? They're tracking the stock.
Yeah, the ideal business? Growing at 200%, making 90% margin, no risk at all, doesn't exist, right? So these are challenges, I think, that you have to deal with. So the fact that, the government is starting paying us, fine, we do a great job so that they have no reason not to pay us, and we eventually get the money. So I think some of these challenges are, overrated. Broadly speaking, if you do something that adds value to the customer will be more than happy to put money on the table for you to do that. And that's been the mantra in EduComp.
When Shantanu went IPO in 2005, he actually wrote a note to all his batchmates at IIM Ahmedabad asking them to subscribe to his issue. If they had, at 110 to 125, they would all be very rich people right now.
The education sector has got its validation by the performance of EduComp, ably led by its dynamic leader, Mr. Shantanu Prakash. EduComp has heralded aggressive public-private partnership in this country. Its contribution has been significant in its technology-enabled classrooms and digital content.
Every quarter it's a shocker with the numbers, but it's a good shocker. I mean, there's a triple-digit percentage gain. Give me your own fantastical view for EduComp, because I don't know if you saw it coming 3 years back, but 5 years from now, where do you see the business going because of what you feel is happening with education?
Well, I can't give guidance, so to say. But let me flip the question and answer it in a different way. Currently, we work with about 7 million students in about 15,000 schools worldwide. I think in the next 5 years, that number can go to 10 times. So from 10 million, we could be working with 100 million students. But Mithali, that is just the tip of the iceberg. Just in India itself, there are about 350 million students who could potentially go to school. The country is able to provide education just for 220. So there are over 100 that are still out of school. So this is a big problem, and I hope people understand. Most people don't realize the magnitude of the education challenge. It's a big part of who we are as a nation going to become tomorrow.
Shantanu's vision is to transform the teaching-learning process through the use of technology and best practices. Educomp serves over 15,000 schools, and hold your breath, a whopping 7 million learners and educators across the world, with some of its popular initiatives like Smart Class, MathGuru.com and Roots to Wings. Educomp has built strong partner relationships with major companies in India and abroad like Intel, Microsoft and Wipro. It has also formed 2 JVs with Raffles Education and has acquired a 51% stake in US-based web-delivered curriculum provider Learn.com.
So Shantanu, you know, I was just talking a little bit more about the whole wealth creation thing. It's interesting, when you went IPO in 2005, you know, you were subscribed, what, 35 times, it was 100 to 125, people said, overvalued, overvalued.
Sure.
Did you see it coming where it is today? Because truly you're one of the biggest success stories from the IPO route.
Well, you know, when we went public, we were the first education company to tap the capital markets. So our real challenge was how to make people understand the education story.
Right.
And we had, I guess, in a way, pay the price of a pioneer by, you know, when people were saying 125 is too expensive, and, you know, our stock went up to like 5,000 plus. Okay. And we had more buyers at 5,000 than we had at 125.
By the way, on the subject, do you track the stock market very carefully? Do you keep an eye on
actually not.
daily market? Come on.
No, not at all. You know, whether the market goes up or it goes down, okay, it makes no difference to our business. Now look what's happened over the past 2 or 3 months. We've lost about 30-35% of our market cap. Has it impacted our business? Not a single bit.
But isn't it your calling card as well in a way, Shantanu? I mean, the reason your success is so well documented is because the equity market has reflected it in your market cap, in your price. So when you go out and strike a deal or look for potential money as you did in the past, that must stand you in good stead, right?
Absolutely it does. So I'm, you know, good market cap, great visibility in the stock market, being on interviews like this certainly helps the business. So clearly I completely agree with you there.
A lot of positives for Educomp, and people who are interested in a entry into something, a sunrise industry, could definitely look at Educomp as a growth stock. If there are some concerns, it is that the valuation has gone very high, and secondly, it sees huge operator activity. It has high intraday and intra-month volatility. So one has to be mindful of the volatility. But having said that, it's an aggressive play in the IT space.
The other thing I read on the website of IIM Ahmedabad was that when you went IPO, you actually wrote a note to, I think it was your colleagues at that point, saying, you know, I'm going IPO, please help me, please subscribe, tell your friends and family. Did you get a lot of responses? Because IIM is very tight as a community.
Actually, I did.
You did?
Well, that's the time you need all your friends to support you, right?
And did any of them like stay the distance till this entire run?
Several of them actually. You know, I meet some of my old friends, you know, in an airport or somewhere else and say, you know, I still own that Educom stock.
Really? And that's a great feeling.
And that's a great feeling, yeah.
What about your folks? Do they feel proud? Do they see you as a wealth creator?
That's probably the last thing they would look at me like. Yeah, but I guess they are proud of you know, whatever I've managed to do for education in India.
I noticed also when I was reading up on you that one of the terms that's used for you is pedagogy. You know, is that how you would like to see yourself more than an entrepreneur, as someone who's part of the entire education initiative?
So pedagogy is a term that essentially applies teachers.
And so educational institutes?
Well, you know, I'm not an educator. I'm in the education business. I don't have a degree in education. But I think that's in a way an advantage, because when you take a step back and look at education, education for the past 500 years has never been considered a business. And if you really ask what's been Educomp's, one of our greatest contributions, besides intellectual property, besides innovative transformational models, it is making people realize that there is value in education.
I mean, candidly, Shantanu, you know, we all know what the situation is with education. If you were to change one fundamental thing about the educational system right now, what would it be?
Actually, I would say 2 things.
Okay.
One is quality of education. Despite the fact that Indians are, you know, India is the poster child of high quality education outside India.
Okay.
But if you look at the statistics from India, the statistics are actually quite dismal. 50% students fail in the public exam, there's an 80% dropout ratio, only 3% enroll for professional education. So I would improve education quality in the classroom. The other thing that I would clearly improve is access to education.
Yeah.
I think it's it's a telling comment on our society that this is 2008, this is the new millennium, and 100 million students are still out of school.
Yeah.
Before we do anything else, we need to have those kids inside the school.
Both of us were in the same section in college, so we had a lot of interaction in classrooms also. And he has been a very active participant in every event, whether it is cultural event or in academics in the classroom. I think one of the most interesting events that we were jointly involved in, even on the campus, myself and Shantanu along with a few others, were that we pioneered in bringing Society for Promotion of Indian Classical Music and Culture amongst youth, which was in its initial phases during those days, into Ahmedabad.
Shantanu, the other thing is that for a lot of people watching your success, they're probably wondering, wow, he's done it all at such a young age. He went IPO, it was such a success, his business is a success. Give me your retirement plan.
My retirement plan is to, we're building schools.
Yeah.
Is to build one in the Nilgiri Hills, which is on 200 acres land, have a nice little cottage right at the end of the corner, and every morning go out and work with the young kids.
And sell stake as well, because you have the leeway too, right? 56% promoter stake.
Yeah, but 95% of my wealth is invested in Educom, and that's a telling comment as to what I think is the best investment.
Yeah.
Is Educom.
But you would never look at that. If someone came and made a fantastic offer to you and said, I love your education model, I want to buy it, what would you say?
No, why not?
Yeah?
End of the day, it's about creating shareholder value. So I'm just one of the largest shareholders of the company. But if an offer came along that offered huge value to our shareholders, certainly we would look at it. But we would also look at the fact that will the new owners be able to create sustained value over a period of time.
And you believe at this point you probably have the best opportunity to do that aside from one.
We have a fantastic management team. I think the success of Educom is not about me, it's not about a personality. It's about the
you feel strongly about that, right?
Yeah.
You don't like entrepreneurs being bigger in the business.
It's always the business that has to center stage. So if you look at Educom, we follow a very interesting model in which there's no one entrepreneur. So you're talking to me, but in effect Educom is a story that's built by about 20 very high quality entrepreneurs that are internal to Educom.
If you could spend all that money that you have right now in Educom, where would you spend it, Shantanu? We're sitting in the middle of a football field. Would you want to buy a soccer outfit or something? What would you do with the money?
My take about wealth is that it's really difficult to actually consume it. The more you consume it, the more you destroy yourself.
What excites you about getting into a brick and mortar plan? Because you've been so driven by the whole e-learning initiative. That's really been what Educomp is about.
So partly ambition and partly vision. So I was talking to you earlier about the huge capacity gap that exists in India.
Yeah.
And you see that every day, how much stress parents have to do to get their kids into school. So we said, somebody has to do it. And let us be the pioneers. Let us set up the next capacity for million students in India. And it's also partly ambition, because we know that running schools is such a great business that it's very difficult to go wrong.
But where will you price it, Shantanu? Will you price
for
it
the middle class?
For the middle
class? For the middle class, because Educomp is really doing it for the middle class citizens of India who aspire for high quality education. They don't get it.
But you think you'll be able to manage that, get them high quality education and high quality teachers against a lower scale of fees?
That's challenge, and the response to the challenge is to have the cutting edge intellectual property, the pedagogical models that allow you to do that.
That's great. Okay, Shantanu, we're going to play a game called Rapid Fire with no coffee hamper, no prize, no car, no extra school, nothing. But you have to get the answer. So give me the right answer.
Sure.
Your favorite subject as a kid?
Math.
Really?
Yeah, somebody has to multiply the dollars.
Your favorite thing about being a listed company?
I think it's the visibility that you get. The opportunity to be on shows like these.
Your most hated thing about being a listed company? You can't say being on these shows, Shantanu.
Being under a microscope all the time. Taking calls from investors from across the world, from different time zones. So it's like 2 a.m. in the night for me, but it's like 10 in the morning for someone in the world.
You get that?
I do get that, yes.
People ask you for a guidance target, what do you say?
Look at the big picture.
Okay, if you hadn't launched EduComp, what would you have done?
A professor?
Really?
Or a philosopher, I guess.
Of math?
I love being a teacher. I love teaching.
Your biggest nightmare as an entrepreneur of e-learning?
Oh, India will stop having more kids.
Okay, I'm going to read out a couple of songs and titles and terms. Tell me what comes to your head first. We don't need no education.
Certainly, we need learning.
Money hai to honey hai.
No comment.
Come on, Shantanu, be a sport. Okay, each one teach one.
Each one teach many.
I like that. What about the best things in life are free?
If it's education, it should be free. That's the way society should make it happen.
Shantanu, it's been a pleasure profiling you as a wealth creator, and I think it's fantastic the way you feel about education. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
being
Ms.
on
Al.
on
It's a
our
pleasure.
show. The piece of advice you would give a young entrepreneur who wants to become a wealth creator?
Have confidence in yourself, because India has the potential of creating millions of wealth creators.